Do you remember when we did the episode together, and then afterward we were talking because we kind of enjoyed speaking with one another. You said, hey, so what's going on with Stories and Strategies? And I'm looking for an opportunity to co-host a podcast. You remember that? Remember that conversation?
Yes, absolutely. I remember that.
I do too. And what stood out to me, you picked on a couple of things on the podcast, like the opening story, and you emphasized how you thought that was a positive, and that just hit the right note for me. And as we've gotten to get to know it, I'm so glad that you're joining as a co-host, Farzana. I could not be happier.
Thank you, Doug. I mean, the first time I heard Stories and Strategies, and I just love how each episode starts, you'd really grip the audience with a story. And, and that is just this age-old way to engage with people, which is often lost. The art of storytelling is often lost, and it's dismissed as being sort of fluffy. But actually, we're storytelling animals. We need stories to live.
Amen. So where do we want to take this thing? Because it's a podcast that's done well from a PR perspective on Raphonic. It's listed as the top PR podcast, but we want to change it. We want to take it in different places together. Some of the changes.
Well, Doug, it's an incredible podcast, and my God, it's quite an accolade to be the most listened to PR podcast in the world. So that is absolutely impressive. I think what would also be incredible would be to take Stories and Strategies on a journey around the world to really not just the incredible storytellers in the US and in Canada and in the UK, but let's head over to the Middle East. What incredible transformation is happening across the GCC economies. Let's go over to Africa, 54 countries. Imagine the storytelling potential across this incredible continent. I want to hear from the Aussies down under. Now, they have been coming to the UK, dominating our political PR for a long time because they have the most extraordinary ecosystem of sort of politics and media that has really given rise to incredible political PRs. And also India, my God, India is one of the fastest growing economies. We should all be looking to India as much as we're looking to China for the opportunities. These are the economies of the future. We need to understand them. We need to know how to navigate those territories. And a good PR is a global PR person with that global mindset, because communications doesn't stop at national borders. It actually doesn't even stop at your industries and your sectors. It is pervasive, and that's what we need to develop.
Yeah, I want to spend more time in Latin countries as well, Spain, Portugal, but in South America, there's a whole continent. We've done one episode in Argentina, and that's it. And it was with an English, someone from the UK who had moved to Argentina. So I spend more time there. Give you an example of some things we can learn. We did an episode with Eric Karani, one of the leaders of communications in Kenya. 3 African nations have made it the law that they will regulate PR. In other words, you have to be certified and your practices are regulated by law. But once you study it, I would suggest in the US, that would never fly because it comes across as a restriction on freedom of speech. I would assume the UK would feel the same way.
Well, you have quite a lot of people who do not believe that PR is a profession, and they will balk at the thought of it being regulated. However, I've got a different view. I don't think that we understand the power that we have as an industry. And with but also with great power comes responsibility. And, we are dealing with societal ills like disinformation and misinformation. And gone are the days where all we would do is pitch to journalists and get ignored half the time. We don't have gatekeepers anymore. We go direct to the public. And that's where perhaps we need to rethink our industry and how we operate, and that sort of fierce independence that we have. I wonder if actually it's misplaced in this new world where actually regulation, or at least some form of qualification and understanding with an ethics component, may become something that actually would help our role in society as communicators.
I got to admit, because I've got the ISO SCMP letters after my name through the Global Communication Certification Council, I kind of dig that the ISO recognizes my certification. I must admit to that. The other thing we're doing is we're going to deliberately focus on having more female guests, and we're going to try to hit a benchmark of about 75%. And that's, it's a best practice because 2/3 of the industry is made up of women, and yet about a third is at that CEO or VP level. So it's time more women had more voice.
Do you know, Doug, that is such a brilliant homage to the missing women who just simply leave the industry when it gets to the senior roles. And I think, and we call them invisible women, that they're either have left the industry or they're there, but they're just not present. And how many pitches do you get, Doug, from men versus women?
I'd say 3 out of 4.
You see that? I mean, only 25% of people who pitch, to be a guest on your show are women. And that's why, I think it would be incredible if we work super hard and make sure that we get 75% women on this podcast. I mean, Doug, I just think that would be the ultimate homage to the PR industry, which is a feminized industry. The majority of people working in PR are women.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great for people to send us the most incredible women that you think would be great guests on our show. Send them to us. Let us know their names. Who do you want to hear from? Let's make this happen.
There's a link in the notes to this video right at the very top. That's the email to send it to us. If you've got an idea as a guest or potential guest, only thing I'd caveat that with is a pitch that says, I'm a female, I'm really smart, I've got all these credentials. We may not pay attention to that, but I have a great story to tell. Or, you know how everybody believes in ABC? Well, I think XYZ. Instead, that's beautiful. That's what we want. Go against the grain. Tell us a story, something unique. That's the way to pitch that. I'd also love to see more African Americans pitching to be on the podcast. I think I've had in total 10 pitches.
And that's over how many years, Doug? How many years?
That's over 4 years, and now we're getting 2 or 3 pitches a day, right? Sometimes 4 or 5. So not a lot of pitches. Bring more African American females, more African American males. There's a real dearth of Black males in the public relations profession. We've done a whole episode on that. So I'd love to diversify it, go around the world, more people, more voices, more opportunity to learn.
I think that'll be incredible. And I think people are really looking to learn. And, our podcast can be truly inclusive, and inclusive in the sense of not only women and men, but, ethnic minorities in their sort of host countries. Because often I find ethnic minorities can actually tell a story of its own country, because you become like chameleons when you're an ethnic minority. You sort of take on multiple different cultural personas, and you're often bridging between your home culture and the culture that you're working in and so forth. So I think there's a very interesting perspective. So I think this podcast will be wonderful, Doc. I think it's going to be the first PR podcast of its kind, 75% women, truly global voices, and really understanding, the nuances of global communications, and truly global, not just Brits and Americans, but both of us going out into the world and listening with humility what is happening in the world.
Let's do it, partner.
Brilliant. Look forward to it, Doug. Let's make it happen. 1st of April.